Hey and welcome back. In my next couple of videos, we're going to explore about the world of recruiting, staffing, and the different methods of approaching the process. While much of the process remains consistent regardless of the industry or type of recruiting you participate in, there are some noticeable differences as well. For instance, there are in-house recruiters that work internally for a company and third-party recruiters that work for recruiting agencies and take on outside clients. There are also different types of third-party recruiting agencies, one of which we'll be focusing on in this video, Contingency Recruitment. But before we get started, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, click that bell. It means a lot and really helps us out a lot. There are two broad types of recruiting we're going to explore over the next couple of videos, contingency and retainer. They utilize many of the same strategies to work with clients and source candidates, but their processes can be very different at times as well. The main difference between the two, however, lies in how the recruiter gets paid. Contingency recruiting explained. Contingency recruiting may sound like an abstract or even complex process, but it's really not. The definition is right there in the name. The recruiter's payment is contingent on their success. It is the process of hiring an outside third-party recruiter or staffing organization to source candidates for roles that need filling, under the agreement that the recruiter will not get paid until a candidate gets successfully placed. It allows companies to begin the recruitment search for key roles without committing to any upfront payment, thereby reducing risk. Like I said, contingency recruiters still utilize typical recruitment methods. The client defines the terms and responsibilities of a role that needs to be filled, and the recruiter begins a search of their talent sources looking for candidates that fit the role. After communicating with the candidate and gauging their interest, the recruiter submits them for consideration. However, unlike retainer recruitment, under contingency recruiting, typically payment is only received if their candidate receives and accepts an offer from the company. If this happens, the recruiter typically receives a percentage of the employee's first year salary. Within the agreement, there also may be a warranty, a guarantee refund or replacement policy from the recruiter to the client if the new employee does not end up staying with the company within a certain time window. The process can be further complicated when the company's internal recruiters are also driving direct applications, and in some cases, organizations may hire multiple agencies. This means contingency recruiters are often competing against the performance of the in-house staffing team, sourcing applicants directly, or even other agencies the client is working with. Contingency is especially valuable to companies for its low risk and high reward, without having to make an initial investment in a recruiter or agency. Companies can quickly expand their reach. On the side of the recruiter, there is obviously a massive risk associated with this. They could spend a lot of time and effort looking for a candidate only to be beaten by another, forfeiting any payment for the work performed. As such, contingency recruiters are at the top of their games and have to constantly maintain a list of active job seekers they can't waste their time on searching for candidates who may or may not be interested. Contingency recruitment is often used to find candidates for entry-level positions, but it can be used for more senior positions such as supervisors, managers, directors, and occasionally even executives. Contingency has an effect on all parties involved in the hiring process. So let's look at some of the pros and cons of contingency from all sides. Pros of contingency. Contingency is especially beneficial for the hiring companies. The initial investment is basically zero. This can be especially valuable because contingency recruiters are well-versed in their sphere and can further help you by providing their expertise when you need it. One of the biggest advantages to working with a contingency recruiter is getting access to their network. Like I mentioned, contingency recruiters rely on a constant pipeline of talent in order to maintain productivity and therefore profitability. When a company teams up with a contingency recruiter, they likely won't have to worry about building up their own pool of talent. Contingency recruiters also utilize resources such as software that organizations may not have access to or even a regular need for. By hiring an outside recruiter, you also get to leverage their extensive backbone of recruiting tools. Another advantage of contingency recruiters is how they are generalists. They are flexible and can help recruit for a number of roles. However, this can also be seen as a downside as they may not have the first-hand experience necessary to source candidates for more specialized roles. The cons of contingency. Along those same lines, contingency recruiters are juggling many different projects and may lack some of the dedication you have for filling roles as their attention is split between numerous clients. There are also subpar contingency recruiters who are focused on volume over quality. There is an incentive to overwhelm organizations with dozens of low-quality candidates in hopes that one slips through. Additionally, contingency recruiters typically do not participate in other aspects of the hiring process, so it will be up to the organization to conduct interviews, review resumes, and make the ultimate determination for themselves. Contingency versus retained recruiters. The other type of recruiting, retained, is the opposite of contingency. Retained recruiters are paid an upfront fee in addition to payment after a candidate has been hired. As the name suggests, they will likely work with clients for an extended period of time. While contingency recruiters typically quickly move from project to project, the nature of their job requires them to be constantly looking for new clients. Retained are often much more involved in the hiring process, participating in interviews, reviewing resumes, and perhaps even sitting in on the final decision. On the other hand, contingency recruiters are not involved with these aspects. The nature of each type of recruitment determines their methodology. A retained recruiter will take their time finding a handful of candidates that specifically match specialized talent the roles require, while a contingency recruiter will likely deliver a larger pool of more generalized but yet targeted candidates. Like contingency recruiting, this has its own advantages and drawbacks for all parties involved. We'll delve deeper into retained recruiting in a future video. When looking for a contingency recruiter, it may be helpful to see what industries they have experience in. They may not have the in-depth, specialized knowledge to actually take on the role themselves, but a little familiarity will go a long way. Also consider the tools and softwares they utilize and try to get a good feel for their processes as well as their track record as you decide whether or not to work with them. Check to see if they have connections in your industry and how they go about looking for potential candidates. Like all the best recruiters out there, contingency recruiters should be up to date on all the latest recruiting news and techniques and have a strong grasp of multiple recruiting tools in order to source and organize qualified candidates. They will work closely with their teams to get to the root of the position and try to find candidates who will bring value to the company as soon as they can. Avoid recruiters who are too quick to spam you with irrelevant contacts. They're just going to end up wasting everyone's time. Have any more thoughts on contingency recruiting? Please make sure to drop down a comment below. If you like this video and want to see more like it, feel free to like, subscribe, click that bell. It really means and helps us out a lot. Feel free to also follow me at Preston_Park as I try my best to also post daily. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.